She can only speak gibberish.
Bäraren av deras budskap.
Swedish. She's just speaking Swedish.
Cate, I think it's safe to say we haven't seen you in a movie quite like this before. Although I guess it's safe to say I've never seen a movie quite like this before. But what can you tell me about inhabiting this kind of chaotic world of Rumours and working with these directors?
Oh, I'd been a huge fan of Guy's film. I sort of went, his films big and small, and also his theatrical endeavors, these hybrid experiences, done with Lou Reed and Laurie Anderson and Isabella Rossellini in the theater as well. And then I'd seen The Green Fog, which he'd done with Evan and Galen Johnson. So I was a huge fan. And then Ari Aster called us both up and said that he was going to produce it, and did I want to come on board? And it was an absolute big yes. And watching his other films and their films together, I knew kind of vaguely of what the tone might be. But I think this is a departure even for them. It's even more stupid than anything they've made before.
Yeah, Guy was saying it's his sellout film, which
it's his sellout. Yes, exactly. We've helped him sell
Guys stayed the same.
Denis, I mean, what's fun about this is that it's almost like a play. It's like you're a troupe of actors. You're almost in every scene together, or some combination of. I'm curious, how much was there a big amount of rehearsal beforehand? Did you all get to know each other well before?
We did rehearse for a week, and then we all hang out together all night in those infamous black tent while we were waiting for the set to be ready. So you're right, it was like a theater group. It was definitely led by Cate.
No, but we all sort of strangely started echoing our characters. Like, I would always offer people coffee, and Rolando would offer people sort of food and meat. Yeah. He cooked for us cheese and meats.
Yeah.
He always seems to have a meat on him based on the film anyway.
And it's one of my favorite moments is when Nikki is offered the meat, and just she knows, where's this been sitting on his body? I'm not sure.
There's I guess temptations maybe to draw parallels between real life figures and your characters. I'm curious, did you play it that way? Is it entirely a fictional character, or were you plucking from any real people, for both of you?
No, you don't really. I lean towards like the king aspect, the power, and try and have fun with that. Otherwise, it's just trying to copy something, and then I'm not good at that. So I'm just trying to have fun with just playing the poor little Uburois.
But I think it's interesting casting, because none of us look like any leader that has been of the country that we were representing.
Right.
So there was a kind of, and the very fact that Charles Dance, who was playing the American president, had an English accent that is never explained.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's a perverseness to the way the film was cast and put together, I think.
Was there a scene, I mean, it's hard to single out certain sequences, but was there a sequence for either of you that really stood out in terms of the filming of it, that made it maybe more memorable than other sequences?
I loved the kind of exterminating angel Buñuel final scene, the way they were so lost, and that was an amazing building in which we were filming it, with these really grand old ceilings.
And for me, it was just being constantly covered in mud in a wheelbarrow.
What was the and people who haven't seen the movie yet won't know what I'm talking about, but what was the giant brain like on set?
It was real. It was realistic.
Yeah.
I'd never seen such a big brain. I didn't know they came that big. It was a woman's brain, right?
No, giant man's brain.
Oh, okay.
Slightly bigger than a woman's brain.
Slightly bigger than a woman's brain.
Well, thank
you. It was great. It was kind of revolting. It was kind of disgusting. It was slippery and slimy and enormous. But and I felt strangely full of longing and regret when it was set on fire. There was something very emotional about them burning the brain.
Did that happen for real, or is the brain okay somewhere?
No.
Died.
We only had one brain, and we burnt it.
Well, that's a good note to leave on. Thank you guys so much, and congrats on
Thank
the
you.
film.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yes.
We have been abandoned.
It doesn't make any sense. No one is coming.
Something apocalyptic has occurred. It's the dark ending our species deserves.
Thank you all so much. Just to start with, you're all terrific in this movie, which is, I'm trying to describe it to people. I'm having a difficult time doing that, which is, I guess, a good thing.
You're on the right track.
Yeah. Roy, I guess I'll start with you. I'm curious about your process delving into this character, because you're obviously a highly emotional guy. You seem to be having a lot of fun playing him, and from what I could understand or what I heard, they wrote this character specifically for you.
Yeah, well, I only learned that like about 2 weeks ago at the TIFF festival. They said it, actually they didn't say it to me, they said it at the audience at the Q&A after the screening. How did I approach this character? Like well, first of all, it's the kind of script that I like to do, this kind of movie I like to do. I like to be surprised by a script, positively surprised. I'd already worked 3 days with Guy and Evan and Galen, which they gave me the 3 best days of shoot of my life. But that was on the Forbidden Room, which is completely different from the movie we shot there. Well, actually, the director sent us, I guess, to everyone some archive videos of different G7s. So I guess we could actually I used it just to inspire myself with the body language that they have between each other, the waves, the smiles, but that was pretty much good for just the beginning of the movie. After that, it just takes off, and I just played a human being trying to survive, and with the very well written lines that we had to say, it was directed in this way that the lines would support you. It's written pretty much like a theater play. You don't change a word without asking, or yeah.
Nikki, did you find any inspiration in any real life people? Because I feel like there's going to be a temptation to draw parallels between these characters and maybe real politicians. I'm curious about your opinion on that.
Not any particular one, but I did have a lot of fun kind of just delving into like kind of mix and match. I could choose different personality traits from different leaders over time. I was kind of more interested in like what kind of personality type, really believes that they can that they can lead a country, or lead the world into a better future. And so and then I kind of magnified that idea to somebody who was sort of perfectionist, workaholic, didn't like to get anything wrong. I really liked playing with femininity and power as well, that she could retain her sense of being a lady but still be commanding and really hold her own in this arena. But other than that, as Roy said, we looked a lot at G7 conferences from the past, and then started with this kind of physicality, this sort of weird social dance that takes place, and the etiquette and the presentation to the world that everything is okay. And that kind of gave me a lot of ideas for how to keep moving with it.
Rolando, as Roy mentioned, it does kind of feel like a filmed play. So often you're all together, kind of like a moving acting troupe, going through the forest and whatnot. Can you talk about the experience of working with this ensemble and what it was from like a day-to-day experience?
For me, it was a present, and is a present. The only for me, it was difficult to play this role because I'm more near the role that played Tom Cruise, like Mission Impossible. Why, Nikki, are you laughing?
No, nothing. I got something in my eye.
Okay. So for me, it was difficult, but I am a good actor. So, and the screenplay, it was a very good screenplay. So for me, it was difficult, but simple. Yes.
Well, thank you all so much for your time, and congrats on the film. Really appreciate talking to you.
Thank you. Nice
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
This is a very exciting find.
So what is this? It's quite gruesome.
This is an example of what we call bog bodies, mummified from the Iron Age.
You see, his penis has been severed and hung around his neck. Sounds like a man to me.
First of all, thank you so much for your time today. Really enjoyed the film.
Our pleasure.
What I enjoyed most about it, I think, was that it's hard to pin down. You know, it's not just a satire. You certainly can't call it a horror comedy. I mean, it's just impossible to really define. And I guess, Sky, we'll start with you. Can you talk about your initial vision for the crazy world of Rumours?
Well, first of all, people have been telling me for years, especially distributors, that your films are impossible to classify. And I'd say, well, thank you. I'd be honored. And then they'd say, that's a bad thing when you're going to sell them. But I think we've got the balance just right this time. It's at least when you're talking about its component parts, it's at least recognizable genres, and people can start being intrigued by the strange combination. The inspiration, we'd been writing around a lot. We'd had a bunch of scripts that ended up for the drawer, but for some reason, the G7, which just started as a tiny subplot in one script, started taking on a bigger presence in subsequent scripts. And then finally, we decided to throw all those scripts away, even to dump the drawer into a paper shredder and save the G7. We started to notice with these G7 leaders always releasing some sort of bromidic statement every year, and that we'd been struggling with writing for so long that we had a lot in common, that we were writers. And we just sort of what-ifed our way into this situation. What if these G7 leaders were kind of just lost the way we feel lost in the woods sometimes, and away we went.
Galen, can you talk about, the movie's cast so perfectly? I feel like everybody just seems so right for their roles. Can you talk about assembling this terrific ensemble?
Yeah, well, the Canadian Prime Minister was the only character who we actually wrote for a specific actor, who was Roy Dupuis. So we cast him first, and then once after that, Cate Blanchett came aboard, and after Cate Blanchett comes aboard your movie, you get your first choices. So it was just a matter of picking, it was a dream. We just picked the actors we dreamed of working with, who we never thought we would be able to work with, and they all said yes. And we just have the greatest cast ever now. It was wonderful.
Evan, the three of you have been collaborating for some years now. Can you give us some insight into how that collaboration works? Because it's not often you see like three directors credited.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to summarize how our collaboration works, because it is kind of different every film. Like, it really, we approach each project, differently. Each project has different needs and different demands, and this one in particular was. I don't think hadn't ever divided the responsibility in exactly this way before. I don't know if it's our first film with a larger budget. It's not enormous, but and so the experience on set was we had to be a little careful of the fact that there were a lot of people around looking to us to make big, important decisions. And there were three of us, and we had to know what we were, what our plan was before people come and ask. So there was frankly, though, we spent the last 8 years together alone in a room writing and discussing things. So we mostly know what we think about everything.
Yeah.
So when people come and ask questions, there's not a whole lot of, we don't have to do a whole lot of arguing in front of anyone.
There were no arguments in front of anyone, and very few behind.
There was one big argument, but that was later. And, other than that, no arguing.
That's a good process. Some people, I think, consider this your most mainstream movie, perhaps. Do you guys see it that way?
Big sellout. No, it's obviously there's things, we were very proud of our past work, ferociously proud sometimes, and a little bit ashamed too. But there were alienating effects in, say, a movie that I'm really affectionate of, The Forbidden Room, which it just had its film emulsions were buckling and decaying before the viewer's eyes and things like that, and that wasn't to everyone's taste. But this script called for something that shots in color, set in the present, shots in focus, actors who can remember their lines, things like that. So if you want to call that a sellout, yes, or more mainstream, but I guess it's just recognizable as a movie. I know all my relatives are so relieved and thrilled to see the trailer and just see that it looks like a real movie and stuff like that. But I think in its DNA, it's essentially still us, and that it's just not those superficial alienating effects. They're more subconscious alienating effects. The word here.
Well, great job, guys. Thank you so much, and
Thank
congrats
you.
on the film.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.